back to another Backyard Professor Chess video. You guys are gluttons for punishment wanting to watch these mini chess videos, and I'm a glutton for punishment for wanting to make them. But I'm showing my chess journey to hopeful chess mastery, and one of the very best ways is to study the games of the grandmasters, which is what I'm doing. I've picked the Sicilian now as an opening to elaborate on, try to get a feel for, see if we can learn to understand the ins and outs of the Sicilian. And of course, every opening I show is going to take years of research and practice, right? You're not going to get it in just a few quick short videos. This particular game is by Spangenberg and Fatasnik. I honest to goodness don't know who these guys are. This is a really incredible game, however. And we open with a typical Sicilian pawn opening, and from here all typicality disappears. I don't think I've ever seen a Sicilian like this. In fact, I hope this is a Sicilian. I think it is. I don't know enough about all the various different nuances of the Sicilian yet, but I suspect this is close enough to give us a Sicilian flavor. The way the game goes is extremely interesting. He's doing rapid development. He's fianchettoing his bishop. And he brings up the bishop to c4. This is a strong bishop position in the Sicilian, so far as I've been able to see with what few games I've played through. And he bumps up the pawn to e6. I've noticed this in several of Fischer's Sicilians. I know Bronstein has a Sicilian where he pushes the pawn to e5, but in this instance, again, they have a small but a compact center. He is basically making sure more or less that the white is not going to overrun him in the center. He's going to be able to meet him with a strong force. It doesn't appear to me that black is interested in occupying the center. I believe he's going to try another route. Make sure the center is secure and safe, and you can go to a wing. And I believe that's the idea. Knight comes over here to e7, bumping into these two center squares, which is contested with this center pawn. So again, he's influencing the center. He's not necessarily placing his pieces in the center at this point. He just wants to make sure things are in check. White doesn't bring up the pawn here to challenge the c-pawn either. He brings it up slowly and gently so that they're both more or less. I believe white is occupying the center more. Obviously, since he had the first move, he's better developed at this point than black is, but there aren't any real weaknesses as such, except perhaps this c7 square, because of the way he's pushed the c5. But other than that, this is a pretty good opening, it looks like to me. And he brings up his knight. Tough fight. Now, apparently white, Spangenberg, thinks that his development is enough at this point that he can go ahead and launch further, gaining further central territory, somewhat kingside territory, and he's beginning to hit the kingside already, as well as the center with that f5 push. And black comes up with the d5, putting the question to the bishop. Of course, the bishop can't take the pawn. He can, but it's suicide. There's no reason to. Drop it down to b3. Again, this bishop maneuver to c4 and then back down to b3 is a move that Bobby Fischer really popularized with the Sicilian. And so it's seen a lot based on what I've been reading. Now d takes the e4. The first direct confrontation occurs, and f takes g6. And you do want to take on the kingside pawn, not the center, because you can break up the pawn structure of the king side, and then he's not safe to castle. And now, rather than dealing with the confrontation up here, black continues to take the guardian knight of the king side of white. E takes f3. Black proceeds to take f7, check to the king. The king doesn't take it. He stands himself right in front of that pawn. The bishop's hitting here. The rook is going to be able to come to the open file and have a strong attack. The queen's going to be able to come up into here and have a strong attack. So rather than take the pawn at this point, just dodge out of the way. Granted, you forfeited your castling rights. We'll see how that goes through the course of the game. Sometimes that can make you nervous. And, you know, for myself, I see the rook on the open file. And you say open file. For all intents and purposes, that pawn is so far along, this file's open. You're definitely behind the very powerful passed pawn. And then, as white did, you bring your queen up. That would make me extremely nervous when you've got the crossfire with the bishop coming across here, hitting that pawn and hopefully touching that pawn, and the crossfire of this bishop coming up into here. I would be quite nervous. The knight can come to here and then bump to either to here or here really quick. There's a lot of really serious good potential here for white, it appears to me, right? Well, black has some power of his own. He comes here to queen d4 and check to the king. King bumps over to h1, and now knight comes over here to e5. So now black he had a small compact center. He was more or less influencing the center. He's chosen, because of the wing play of white, he's chosen to blow right into the center, which is excellent chess strategy. Every grandmaster I'm aware of so far that I've been reading and studying says to do this. They say if you are fighting on a wing, don't be surprised if your opponent begins counter-attacking in the center, because that's the way to refute wing play. So black is doing it very properly here by coming right into the center. Kind of nice to know, isn't it? Queen comes down to e2, of course. You don't want to lose your queen this early in the game. Queen comes over here to g4. Now, this is it's a hit on the queen. He's guarded by the knight. It's a direct challenge to this pawn, which is, of course, guarded by the queen, but there's enough material here getting ready to come up. This is going to be tight quick. If he can press this pawn, he's got that bishop here. That king better be really careful, because you can see coming through the center and now dodging over to the wing. The question white has at this point, it appears to me, at one point it looked like white really had something. He's got some latent energy, right? He's got some potential. Black really seems to have the stronger initiative here. So can white afford to trade the queens? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. What does white do in this case? White keeps the queen and comes to f2. Okay? In a way, and this is the wrong way to word this, I know, but for the lack of words, this pawn is almost acting like a traitor at this point. You say, what? Well, yes, it's a great passed pawn and all, but he's not going to march in anytime soon. And in a way, he's preventing the really powerful file work and attack of his own army. I mean, if he could bring this bishop up and bring this rook over to this file, that'd be a great attack, but that pawn is stopping it. It's ironic that the enemy pawn is actually the one protecting the king. That's kind of interesting to see, isn't it? He brings up b6. He's going to shore up his queen side because, of course, he sees white is on the king side. He's going to make sure his queen side is strong. That's good strategy. And, of course, he's going to hit the queen. He's going to say, okay, babe, what are you going to do? He drops the queen back down. He's not gonna challenge the queen, the white queen, anymore. Apparently both of them realize, you know, for this particular attack, it would be more helpful to have the queens on than off. So he's not going to try to get rid of the queen anymore, and the bishop develops to f4. A very strong move, a very excellent development. It connects the rooks. He's obviously going to want to bring his other rook right here and have another open file in the center. That would certainly help white's case. Black really needs to bring his bishop out. It's going to be 3 moves. If he wants to bring it up into the center and onto the king's side, he's going to have to move the knight, the pawn, and then get him out. So realistically, honestly, to develop the bishop, it would be better to fianchetto him, and then you've got that long, powerful, streaking diagonal right at the king. That's essentially the question for black to look at, and that is, in fact, what he does. He sees, he wants his entire army into it, and he sees the faster way to develop, which of course has great power, is to fianchetto rather than come here, or else move the knight, move the pawn, and then bring the bishop up into here. Better to do it from a distance. That makes sense. This is the speedier mode of development, it appears to me. Rook A to E1, absolutely. It's really interesting. I mean, I've been through several dozen Grandmaster games, you know. And, I mean, nothing magnificent yet. Give me 5 more years and I'll have several thousands, if not tens of thousands, under my belt. But one pattern that is really fun to know, and which I am trying to put into my games, and I know you guys are putting them into your games on chess.com against me, which is always good, is they really do bring their rooks into this and try to get the files. Really, seriously, that's pretty important work. Now, he's going to bump into the queen's side. Again, the total area of the chessboard that the masters and grandmasters play is excellent for us to at least recognize someday when we get better or good enough, or we want to practice now. It'd be good to practice right now. You notice how he's playing both sides of the board. He's been over here, and he's been doing some things, and he's been manipulating some squares, trying to probe for weaknesses and all, and now he's playing over on the queen side. It's what I've seen in the Grandmaster games. Really important. D takes that C pawn. Now, the knight takes that pawn. See, that pawn didn't really... It had blazed its trail to glory and hit granite. Darn, no gold, just granite. Well, the knight comes up to B5. Again, now white, he's been playing the king side somewhat. Now he's going to be playing on the queen side. They alternate back and forth because wherever the weaknesses are in a chess game, and this is so interesting to see as beginners, wherever the weaknesses are, doesn't matter which wing, if they can probe the weaknesses and get to those weaknesses and attack those weaknesses, the game is lost. It's really fascinating how that works. And so, of course, here's your weak square right there. Absolutely. And that's where he's heading. At least it appears to me that that's where he's heading. And this knight is going to come up to F5. Again, he's coming to here and here. This knight can bump up here real quick. The bishop can come down and challenge that bishop. If the knights rearrange themselves, come down into here possibly, if that knight will get out of the way. Although that's a very good posted knight for a queenside battle. So you can see a lot of nuances going on, can't you? And sure enough, the knight does go to C7. Absolutely. There's the weakness. Put your piece there. Now, watch what black does. This is so wild. This particular game didn't have any annotations to it, right? So I'm winging this one. I have no idea what in the heck these guys are doing. But he pulls his knight from danger here and blazes him all the way over to here and puts him directly in the knight's path. He pulls his rook and puts it on the other square that the knight can attack. Now, you know, what up, Willis? Don't ask. I have no idea. And sure enough, white must have chuckled to himself. He must have said, holy cow, dude. You're going to give me the rook over here instead of over here. Maybe that was the basis of him bringing him over here, is to keep that knight on guard by the king, so that if he needed to take him later to balance the material, he could do that. I don't know. But he definitely loses the exchange on that. Count me as miffed. I do not understand why he did that. And bishop came to d4, a very powerful move, putting the challenge to the queen. Nice. Good, solid centralization. Queen comes over here to d2, getting out of danger, but she's getting pushed around a little bit, looks like, doesn't it? Rook comes up here to g8, grabbing his own open file. See, this it's true. He's got open files. It just doesn't appear to me to be as effective because they're so cluttered. It's almost as if black is saying, yeah, you know, you've got an open file. Whoop-de-doo, I'm still going to put all my pieces there. He does have a great outpost for a knight, right? Well, that blocks off the open file. Unless you have a good follow-up, you're not going to want to sacrifice the exchange by taking the knight with the rook, right? Your own bishop's in your way for now. So, yeah, he's got the open files, but it just doesn't seem to me that he's getting much mileage out of them. Does that make sense? It just doesn't look, you know. Rook comes to e2. Of course, he's going to defend the pawn here. He can't pull the rook over here to defend the pawn because of the bishop. He's got a very, very powerful bishop zippity-doo-dah down here. And he's got some knights poised for a quick thrust. He's got an incredible open file with a rook based on it. What he does is he drops his queen right to there. And white resigned. So this is a really, really fascinating glimpse, an idea into the Sicilian on how various different tactics, how various different themes of center control, and then later central possession, and then of course the final process where you attack and the attack is so strong that there's nothing white can do to stop off the mate. So there is your chessercise. Thanks for watching my Backyard Professor chess videos. These are fun to make. They're a great review for me. It's fun to kind of sift through my various books and articles and magazines and find different games with different openings that I want to take a peek at. Right now I've decided I want to look at the Sicilian, possibly the Sicilian Dragon also. They're similar in themes and in context, and for the kind of squares and the strategy and the manipulation of space, etc. The Sicilian is one of the... What book was I reading? The Sicilian has a... If I read this right, if I remember this right, a 38% chance of winning, and the authors of this book, I believe it was one of Lev Albert's books, he said 38% for one of the defenses in chess is really excellent. So it's a great defense to understand as black. It's a great defense to understand as white. I'm going to show some of the games where black wins, but I think I'm going to show some of the games where I'm going to show what white has done to thwart the Sicilians. This afternoon I played through a few of David Bronstein's Sicilian games, and I played through some more Bobby Fischer's Sicilian games, and I've been playing through Gary Kasparov's Sicilian games, and I'll tell you what, there's just an embarrassment of riches. There's an abundance of fabulous chess coming up in my chess videos. I'm sure there's other chess videos. There's several people making chess videos, and some of them are really excellent, good instructive videos for us. So anyway, have a great life. Happy chessercising. Work hard, study well, be good, do awesome, be nice. The world needs nice right now, right? Let's have some fun playing chess together in our Fun Chess Brotherhood online. And I will see you in the next chess video.